Hi, everyone. My name is Riley Teitelbaum. I am the Education and Summit Coordinator with the League, and I'm thrilled to be introing this webinar and to have the support of our communication specialist, Marley Townsend, who will be joining to close out the call and moderate the Q&A and everything. Thanks so much for joining us for All Aboard the Bike Bus. We're thrilled. We've got some incredible speakers today, and we're excited to have you. Just some quick reminders for you. The session is being recorded and can later be found on our YouTube, where our YouTube channel is at Bike League. Or at bikeleague.org/webinars, where you can find links to all of our past webinars, as well as RSVPs for upcoming webinars. If you have any questions throughout, please submit the questions via the Q&A feature. And if you need closed captioning, you can enable that. You may need to click the three dots in the bottom right corner, more, and select captions, but those are auto-generated, so feel free to make use of them if they are helpful. As many of you know, we are the League of American Bicyclists. We've existed since 1880, and our mission is to lead the movement to create a bicycle-friendly America for everyone. So the first of our three speakers that we're thrilled to have is Sam Balto, who has taught physical education for over a decade in Washington, D.C., Boston, and Portland, Oregon. For the past 10 years, he has championed active transportation to school as a powerful way to boost student physical activity and strengthen school communities. After leading walking school buses for 6 years, Sam launched his first bike bus at Alameda Elementary in spring of 2022, and the rest is history. His weekly bike bus has gained international attention, even bringing the conversation about children's active transportation to the White House. Building on this momentum, Sam founded Bike Bus World, a nonprofit dedicated to inspiring and supporting communities everywhere to start their own bike buses. Following Sam, we will have Alisha, known to many of her friends as Alisha, known to many of her friends as Milkshake. Her last name is Jones, and she is the leader of Duck Duck Goose Bike Bus in Louisville, Kentucky. Marley, if you could jump to the next slide when you have a second, where she works to make riding to school safe, joyful, and accessible for children. Her ride leadership began with the Wiggle Giggle, a community-focused adult ride that celebrates movement, laughter, and connection. With an educational background in early childhood education and as a parent to a high school junior, Alisha brings both professional insight and personal experience to her advocacy. She is passionate about building a stronger, more connected neighborhoods, from advocating for safer streets to encouraging active transportation for all ages. Alisha's work blends community care, creativity, and a big dose of fun to inspire others to get rolling. And then finally, we are excited to be joined by Vivian Ortiz, who grew up in El Paso, Texas, and has lived in Boston since 2009. You can find her leading her neighbors on bike rides on the Neponset River Greenway Trail in Mattapan as that bike lady. She became car-free in 2007 and started riding a bicycle in 2015. Vivian serves on the League of American Bicyclists board and attended her 10th National Bike Summit earlier this year. She's a former outreach coordinator with the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program. Currently, she's using her certificate as a league cycling instructor to spread the joy and knowledge of smart cycling throughout the many neighborhoods of Boston, Massachusetts. As Boston's bicycle mayor, Vivian builds community around biking and belonging wherever she goes. And with that, I will pass it off to Sam. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I was checking out the chat, and it's awesome to see a lot of names and places that I recognize and that I've been able to connect with over the years. I'm Coach Sam Balto. I'm a physical education teacher who's now taken a leave from teaching to work full time supporting and growing the global bike bus movement. Um, if you've seen any of my videos, you see this massive group of kids riding behind me and millions of views on social media, but I always like to start with this photo. This is where I started in Roxbury, Massachusetts, at the Ellis Elementary in Boston. This is at the corner of Blue Hill Ave and Seaver, and this was our first walking school bus of the spring of 2015. And I say, as a teacher, when you have the experience of doing bus duty and school car line duty and crossing guard duty, and then you get to experience the joy of a walking school bus or a bike bus, you're totally transformed and you're just sort of beyond passionate and to wanting to bring this to more kids, to more communities, because you just see how the students and the families arrive so differently than every other morning. We continue to do our walking school bus seasonally. And this is a photo from our winter walk to school day event. I think it was a year and a half later. And so we had added more routes, and you can see how it grew over the time. And that was an important lesson I learned, the importance of consistency. And our community was able to do it seasonally. My new school, or the school that I'm doing the bike bus with in Portland, we do it weekly, but I say do it as consistently as you can consistently do it. This is now the bike bus in Portland, where maybe a lot of you have heard about the bike bus. We share our videos on Instagram and TikTok, and the videos have gone viral, and we're on NBC Nightly News. And it's been really amazing to see just how I was inspired to do a bike bus from a video I saw in Barcelona. Lots of people have seen our videos and have been inspired to start their own. And because of this, it was really important to create a community around that. And that's where Bike Bus World comes in. And so well, let me just mute this because the sound doesn't work. But definitely I recommend when the link comes back to check out the slides and watch the videos. This is Coach Alex Clark, National PE Teacher of the Year in Washington, D.C. And last year I helped him launch his first bike bus. And he does it monthly with his students as a way to address absenteeism, and just to create a safe way for his students to get to school and encourage kids arriving to school on time. So we provide lots of different approaches, but I think the main thing is sparking, helping people build, sustain, really building the community and then scaling it locally. And I think one thing that's really cool is having Alisha presenting too. She's really shared this incredible model of kind of like this third outlier, where most bike buses are started by parents or school administrators or teachers. And she's really come out in Louisville and sort of paved the way for this third model, which is just community members loving and caring about children actively getting to school and just being proactive about it. So definitely stay tuned to that. We've had massive global impact. Last year, I went to 4 different countries promoting bike buses and sharing the rides, 7 different states, 14 different rides. We provide free one-to-one coaching for anyone interested in starting bike buses. Check out bikebusworld.org. We have a global map. We have over 27 countries. I think we have now Brazil on it as well. And it's just been incredible to see the movement grow over the years. We had our 3rd year of the Global Bike Bus Summit in Worcester, UK. Next year, it's going to be in Lisbon, and the year after, it'll be in Portland, Oregon. I just said it first time. Growing strong in the United States, the movement's growing. It's really cool to see how this is not just in not Title I schools, but there's a pretty equal distribution about it. And I think it's about finding ways to promote children's physical activity. And I want to be clear, when I say bike buses, that doesn't exclude walking school buses. Walking school buses are absolutely a part of this story. I love walking school buses, just bike buses go viral more. and they're just more fun to watch. But absolutely, there's no shame in the game if you're doing a walking school bus or your community feels like that's the tool that best serves your community, do a walking school bus. These are some of the news that we've been in the past year. We were shared by the US DOT. Here's another video to watch later. It's we had
How great.
I was back in DC in May. I got to do the bike bus again, and it was during NACTO, and Jeanette Sadik-Khan came and said some really great words about the bike bus. We also had Justin Timberlake join. Jonathan Haidt, if you've read The Anxious Generation, has commented about the bike bus and the role it plays in giving kids more independence. And social media rapidly growing. It's amazing. If you go on Bike Bus World Instagram, you can see these bike bus videos from all around the country and around the world. Yeah, that's Flavor Flav at the White House. I told him should definitely join a bike bus. We'll see what happens. And this is a bike bus I did in Portland, Texas in March, and it was started by a PE teacher, and they do it once a month. And I think it really goes to show that the joy of physical activity and community, it's in our genetic code. We're meant to be moving, we're meant to be connected, and it's not normal for children and families to be isolated from each other, sitting in school car lines. So anything we can do to help create community and joy and build independence for our children is definitely a noble journey, and I thank you all for being on it. Here's my contact information. Please check out bikebusworld.org, our website, and feel free to email with any questions. All right, Alisha, you are up. Also, Alisha and I met in Louisville last summer, so I got to see the ground level setup for what she's been able to do this past year.
Hello. Thank you, Sam. Thank you guys for having me. I am very, very excited to let you know how we play Duck, Duck, Goose. That's we call our bike bus Duck, Duck, Goose. Um, so you can go ahead and turn to the next slide. I want to let you know why I started a bike bus, and it wasn't just me. It's a group of a lot of my friends were a group of cyclists. And I am not a JCPS, which is our public school system here. I'm not an employee of the school system. I am a mom, but my son isn't a bike bus kid. So I'm like, we can do this. But how? But let me go back. I'm gonna tell you why. We had a busing problem here in Louisville. There wasn't enough bus drivers. And before the school, it was school year 23-24. Right before the school year started, the school system had adopted a new busing system to kind of coordinate everything because the year prior wasn't the best when it came to transportation. School started the first day and we made national news. The last kid didn't get home from school until about 10 o'clock. They shut all the schools down for about 2 weeks to, try to fix the situation. When school started back up, the buses, they came hours late. Some never came at all. So that started the long car lines here. And several months later, maybe April, that's when the big blow came. The school board had decided to no longer transport our kids to the school of their choice, magnet schools. It was just devastating. So families were forced to change schools. If they wanted to stay at the school of their choice, the families had to drive or figure out a way to get them there. Many just had to rethink a lot of things. And we're just cyclists. We're small, and it was never anything to try to replace busing because kids still need it. And so I wanted to make that clear. But I just knew we could do it, and I just wanted to let our city know that, hey, I got your back. Let's get this going. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. I want you guys to hear from the kids. Will the slide not play?
Sorry, I don't think it is.
Okay. Apologies. Well, there is a group here, a little kids rap group called the Young Prodigy here in Louisville. And they made a song about how the busing issues affected them. It's called Where My Bus At. Actually, Coach Sam had made a video and he included it on his bike bus. But it was a big song here. It's a hit, but they sure showed us how much we sucked. And these are just a few articles on the busing issues that we all had to deal with. I actually myself got caught up in that. My son was going to a school of his choice because he wants to be a pilot. And because of the issues and them not busing him to the school of his choice, which was miles and miles and miles away, we were forced to change schools too. But you can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right. I'm gonna let you know how we figure this thing out. Okay, so I'm not an employee of the school district. My own kid is not a back bus kid. How am I gonna get anybody to sign up? How am I gonna get anybody to trust me? How am I gonna keep the kids safe? Well, we have all the volunteers submit background checks, and we have the parents sign up. Once volunteers submit background checks, once parents sign up, we all go into the Discord, a communication app. That's where us volunteers create routes. On bike bus days, the parents can see live beacons. They can see exactly where we are. The school administrators are also in there, so they can communicate with us as well. Okay. Volunteers also receive a Duck Duck Goose shirt. It's a nice marketing swag to, you know, get our name and things out there, flags, speakers, everything to kind of get the party going. The children, once they sign up, they have we partner with a few nonprofits here, cycling nonprofits, and they provide safety vests and helmets. And we also send them an ID medal and a spoke card. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so this is the volunteer slide. This is the volunteer section, excuse me. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Volunteers, there's usually a captain, of course, leading the bike bus, and there's 4 of us. There's a sprinter who's going up and down, checking to see what's up if they need to block traffic or anything like that. There's general, and they kind of helping keep the kids in there, and there's always a person at the back. Like I said earlier, volunteers help make routes. There's some volunteers that help at the booth when we go to resource events, and they can give their availability inside of the Discord communication app. You can slide to the next slide. And these are the rules of the road, and they're just, we just explain them. So captain's role, the general, they usually are kind of just with the kids in the middle. The sprinter up and down. And they're more my eyes than the general volunteer. And we come up with ways to collect data, attendance, how many bikes. We also we invite out community service members to the fire department, so we'll add them to our paperwork. We're also going to send out forms to our parents to ask for back, their, feedback and everything like that. You can go to the next slide. Now, this was a video kind of showing us in action. Apologies for that. But it's a really cute video. You can see this on our Instagram page. But it's our parents, they kind of don't know what to expect. This is a city that it's not the friendliest towards cyclists, okay? So, when they come, they just don't know what to expect. And then I hear a lot, well, I was impressed. So I try to show them, like, hey, we got you. Left turn, right turn. We try to use our turn signals. And when we can, when safety and everything is not more of an issue, we'll throw in trying to teach them the hand signals and things like that. And but that was a video of me showing how I help use the volunteer. We all use each other as a group. Sometimes I'm not at the front. Sometimes I may need them up there with me. Sometimes, but it'll show you that. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is for the parents, the parent section. Okay, parents sign up. They sign a waiver. We have everybody sign a waiver now. Volunteers, the guest volunteers, and the parents sign for their child, obviously. They get a safety vest, an ID medal, SPO card sent to them. They can go by a place called Fall City Community Bike Works, and they can pick up a helmet for free. They can pick up their safety vest, and if they need their bike looked over, they help them do that, and they teach them. All riders must wear helmets, and we send out an update the day before bike bus to have the parents switch their method home to bike bus. And the parents say they're in the Discord, and it's not just for me. So my full-time job is I work at a factory. So originally, now I'm working a lot of mandatory overtime, and I can't be on the ground like originally planned. What have created is a space where there's vetted volunteers, parents are already at. So you guys can, lead your own ride. If there's other, families in your neighborhood or anything like that, reach out on the Discord, ask for, hey, is there any volunteers that can help us out? And and it's thriving. There's a really, really strong volunteer, Beth, and I can't let the world go not know her, but she's just wonderful. She gives a lot, and she's taken over more of a director role right now. And I'm more of a bike consultant and training, teaching, giving resources, anything they need, t-shirts, material. Because I'm at work, but she's leading rides, she's getting volunteers together, she's using this resource, and it's crazy. It's amazing. Well, you can go to the next slide. And these are a few of the community members that we partner with. Bike Louisville, they provide the safety vest. Fall City Community Works, that is the place that our families go to and pick up their items. And there's another one, middle of town. I forgot to add them. They offer a bike clinic for our children. Now, this is what's in the Discord. It may be where the parents can view their routes. You can go to the next slide. And the winners are Duck Duck Goose. You can go to the next slide. Now, this was a video. It was funny too, but it shows it's asking one of our bike bus kids, well, how was the bike bus? And sometimes we GoPro the kids, or we'll we like to have different point of views. So this time we put a GoPro on one of our kids' bikes, and he's coming down this hill, and he goes, "Oh, hell yeah!" Oh, and it was hilarious. I asked his mom because we have a photo release, but I asked his mom again, is it okay for me to share that? And there you have it. He loved it. And I'm pretty sure he'll be starting back with the bike bus again. And that's all I have. Thank you. And then Vivian will be up next.
Beautifully done. I'm working on getting Vivian's slides pulled up, but I just wanted to congratulate our two presenters so far on incredible content. All right, let's see. Okay, you should be good to go, Vivian.
All right. Thank you for having me. I hope everyone's having a great day. I'm here in Boston and I'm very casually dressed because I was teaching kids earlier today how to bike in one of the communities in the Boston area. I loved both of the presentations before me and all of the details about the bike buses. I am not going to cover that because they already did. I just want to talk about how it is that we can encourage more bike buses in our communities and make them more equitable and make it sure that it's an opportunity for everyone to participate that can. So I worked with the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program for 5.5 years. Bike buses and bike trains were part of the curriculum. They have been for the 20 years. And you would think that here living in Boston that it would be something that would be very popular, but unfortunately it hasn't worked out that well for us to be able to get as many bike buses, bike trains, or as in Spanish, bici buses around the Commonwealth. And a lot of it has to do with accessibility, parents and their fear of having their children riding on bikes, communities that don't necessarily bike. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. So I'm really, really, really big on bike education. I learned how to ride a bicycle 11 years ago in the program that the city of Boston has that teaches adults how to ride. The middle picture in the slide is the schedule that comes out every year to invite adults to come and learn how to ride a bicycle. I am a league cycling instructor, so I got the certification, I think it was in like 2015, 2016. And really the main goal of the league cycling instructor program is to get people to ride more confidently on roads. But one of the things that happened was that many of us as LCIs had to get in touch with Allison, who is the person at the league who oversees education, to say, we are coming across all of these folks that do not know how to ride a bicycle. And so now we have a curriculum for that to teach adults how to ride. And so it's not just bike education for kids that we're talking about. We also need to make sure that their parents are able to ride. I'm going to share when this really came to light for me. This past end of the school year, I had the opportunity to join the team from Boston Bikes to be a sub-instructor for the program, the youth cycling program that is a program that takes place in BPS schools. And so many of the littles just, they didn't know how to ride. They did know how to ride. They had bikes. They didn't have bikes. But one of the things that came to me, because I live in a neighborhood where there are a lot of folks that say, I am not riding a bike. It's too scary to ride a bike. You know, the drivers of this, whatever it is. So it came to me that we've got these kids that are learning how to ride. And just to see the amazement in how the joy that this was bringing to them, I started wondering, they live in the same neighborhoods that I live in, and their parents aren't willing to ride bikes or are afraid to ride bikes. So what are we going to do? How are we going to encourage the parents to make sure that the kids are also riding? So one of the things I was doing was getting in touch with the principals or school teachers and encouraging them to sign up to go to the adult Learn to Rides. Because what I would tell them was, okay, if you know how to ride a bike, you know, we have a bike share throughout the city, so you being able to access a bike shouldn't be a problem. But if you don't know how to ride, then it's going to be really hard for you because your son or daughter is going to be wanting you to take them out on the trail or wherever it is. And I don't think you want to be running alongside them. So really promoting that. And just some of the kids just being fearful, some of the parents saying, I think they're gonna, you know, they're gonna fall, they're going to, whatever it might be. And so we need to be working more closely with our organizations, with our advocacy groups, and just we as people who ride bicycles to invite other people to ride bikes, adults, to have them remember what the joy there is in riding bicycles. We're very fortunate that within the Boston area, we do have bike trails. The bike network needs a lot of improvement because it's not all connected, but folks have the opportunity just to come out and ride recreationally. on bike paths or paths that exist throughout the city. So that is something that I personally am, look forward to doing and have been doing, just to kind of remind folks, you can have a good time riding a bicycle. You don't have to necessarily be afraid. So these are pictures of one of the things that I really, really enjoy teaching is bike helmets, bike fit, ABC Quick Check, all of that, to all ages, okay? The number of adults that, if we're leading a ride or something and we need to talk about helmet fit, that we're ever never taught how to do it, or just put it on and go for it. And I'm really big on, let's make sure we're going to wear a helmet, that we're wearing it properly. So this is a school that I worked with, and I always like to encourage the students to help each other out, and they're all excited and they're doing it. And we talk about, making sure that they're wearing a helmet for their safety, and just, it's also the law in Massachusetts that you need to be wearing a helmet until a certain age. And then this picture on the right was just from the other day. This is a community that I work with, that I've been teaching the kids how to ride bikes. And so that was just a shot of me like helping this kid learn how to glide, so that then he would be able to glide and then pedal and do the next steps. All right, next slide. So this is I have very few slides. These are some of the things that I am suggesting that we make sure that we do as bike communities, right? When I was with the Safe Routes to School program, one of the things that I always did in the communities that I was working in was always make sure that I knew what the bike club was, what the bike group was, whatever it was. And I would encourage them to become partners with the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program, because then I would come in and do the education for the kids, but then it wasn't sustainable for me to go back every year and do that. So one of the things I really like doing was partnering with libraries in the communities and having bike repair or conversations about biking, but making sure that the local bike group, or even just people that I knew that rode bikes that lived in that community, to join me and do like one-on-one basic bike maintenance type things. And then after that, I was done. I could move and they could take it over, because that was their neighborhood. I didn't necessarily live there. So making sure that we're connecting with those groups and inviting them to come and help us, because they live there. They're going to be organizing their own bike rides. So we need to make sure that their parents are also involved. Modeling empathy. So what does that mean? When I was working, one of my favorite things to do was to talk to kids about making the best decisions about when to cross the street. We need to do that same thing with folks, to just understand how people move differently. So if it's a person that is only riding a bicycle, well, what might that be like if you're on the bus and then there's a person who's riding a bicycle and you see things that they're doing and you're uncomfortable as a person on the bus? The same thing with drivers, to make sure that they can see what it's like to be a person riding a bicycle, to get on that bus and see how difficult it is for the bus to move in that space during rush hour. So I would teach pedestrian safety to these kids, and then I would tell them, take your parents out. I want you to show your parents, remind them what it's like to cross the street. Also talking to them about, ask your parents questions about what that yellow tactile pad is on the corner of the intersection, and just things to kind of get them to think differently and see how the street was designed. And I always finished all of the conversations with, if you're nerding out about this like I am, you might want to become a transportation planner or a transportation engineer. The next point I want to make is, don't throw away bicycles. All right. I know that we have communities all over the United States, your neighborhoods, where there are bikes in basements when their kids moved out and they said, Mom, hold on to it, I'll come back and get it. And they haven't come back to get it. Do not throw those bikes away. There are always groups that are collecting them. We have several bike kitchens in Massachusetts, and I'm work with a bike kitchen in Dorchester. For those of you that don't know what a bike kitchen is, it's an area where we invite people to come in and we work with them to teach them how to do basic bike maintenance and then bike repair as well. So look into those places. Look to see if you might be able to donate the bike to them, or just find some other child or a kid or whatever that might need a bicycle. Parents are always asking me, where do I get a bike from? Where do I get a bike from? And I tell them, have you asked your cousins? Did you talk to your neighbors? Have you whatever, da, da, da? And they hadn't even thought of that. The kid wants a bike. They don't necessarily need it to be a brand new bike. And I also let folks know, you don't have to spend that kind of money if your child is not 100% sure that this is really what they want to do. And the other thing is they're going to outgrow it within like the next 2 years. All right. I'm speaking on behalf of the folks that are in my communities that are interested in biking, but may not have the resources to find a bike. I also say that in public housing, because I've experienced this, trash night, oftentimes there are bikes that are there and they're usable because, like I'm saying, kids outgrow them very quickly. So that's another way to be able to get a bike. I'm not saying go out and, make this a habit of rummaging through trash, but just keep that in mind that there are ways to get your child a bike. When they ask me that question, I'm like, I don't have bikes. I don't have a way to get them for you. There are PE teachers in schools that they're doing the bike education on their own. So they kind of collect bikes from friends. They ask their fellow cyclists, like, give me your kid's bike when you're done with it, or even the adult bike, right? The other thing I want to mention is, Riley said in the introduction, I've been going to the National Bike Summit now for 10 years. And what we do at the Bike Summit is we meet with our members of Congress and speak to them about funding and legislation. And one of the asks that we have been doing for the last couple of years is to encourage and mandate that bicycle and pedestrian education become mandatory within all public schools. Here in Massachusetts, when I was working with the program and just all the time tell folks, we need to talk to our Department of Higher Education and let them know this is a life skill. Our kids need to know how to do this. And let's work to make that mandatory, okay? And then when you do have a bike bus, this is a column that ran for a bike bus in West Roxbury, one of the neighborhoods here in Boston. Celebrate it. We had a bike bus that was taking place in a community in Brookline. That person was interviewed. We've had a very successful bike bus in Cambridge at one of the schools. So whenever this is happening, celebrate it. And we as adults need to let other folks know about that. So, but the point I also want to make is bike buses are great, but they're not accessible for everyone. There's a community that I used to work with outside of Boston where the parents want to be able to bike their kids to school. But the difficulty that they have is that they don't necessarily have that kind of freedom in the mornings to be able to take that time off from work to be able to get their kids to school. The thing we need to remember, it's always the parents' responsibility to get their children to school. It is not the school. So a bike bus is just another way of getting our kids to school, all right? We need to look at it as that. But how do we make sure that all of the communities in Massachusetts, the region of Boston, in your own states and communities, that everyone has access to that? So that's where we need, as folks who ride bicycles, keep encouraging people to bike, making sure that bike share is something that's in your community, because a parent could use a bike from a bike share to help their kids get to school in the morning if they don't have a bike. So we need to think creatively, because right now, basically all of the bike buses that we see, the majority of the bikes are cargo bikes, and our parents cannot afford them, right? We don't see as much individual bikes. We'll have bikes where the kids are sitting in the back, right? But having the children bike along with their parents, that's another bike that the family would need to have. So reaching out to our neighbors and finding out, talking at a school about biking and how can we help you, just the way that Alisha did. They are cyclists that are helping their community do bike buses. Not all of them are parents, right? So we all can play a role in doing that. Arrival and dismissal at schools is the biggest headache there is. Those 15 minutes that in the morning and in the afternoon make getting to school and from school. For kids who want to bike or their parents who don't allow them to bike because of that, it makes it very difficult. The whole goal of the Safe Routes to School program is to encourage more kids to walk and bike to school, right? And so that's how we can help as community members to make sure that we're doing our part to give people that joy, all right? We know that getting to school on a bike or walking helps with attendance. We don't always talk about that, but it helps with attendance. And it helps also earlier in May, well, toward the end of the school year, one of the schools that I was at, I was remembering how the teachers were just amazed because this was a behavioral class and there was a student or two that just like took off on the bike and they were so excited. And I would tell them, videotape this, send this to the parents. Their parents need to know your child really wants to ride a bicycle, okay? Let's stop getting them all the video games, get them a bike because it was a completely different individual during those sessions. Next slide. So this is my contact information. You can find me on Instagram and do what you can, go to Learn to Rides and invite a neighbor who doesn't know how to ride, show them how to ride. We're very fortunate in Boston, like I said, that we have this adult Learn to Ride, and now the Boston Public Schools is really pushing for the bike education. The picture on the left is getting ready to do bike education at one of the schools. 3 little kids in my neighborhood. And then the other thing is I am a league and cycling instructor and I am a professional shoe tire. Okay. Make sure your kids know how to tie their shoes when they're going to school. So that was probably longer than what it should have been, but thank you so very much. And I'll send it back to Marley.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you all for your presentations. We have some good Q&A, a ton of different questions. So I'll just start with the first one that I saw in the Q&A. Bit of a long question, and it's a logistical one. So whoever feels the best equipped to answer this, feel free to just come off mute. Basically, speaking to the arrival and dismissals being stressful, does the bike bus go to and from school? Like, what does that look like? How do they get home in the afternoon? Like, are there different routes, morning and afternoon? They're also curious about how big of a hill is too big. So a bunch of questions in that, but looks like Sam might be ready to answer.
Yeah, so most bike buses just do them to school. We generally find that's the easiest way to do it. Also, it's not our jobs to solve all of societal's ills. And so by saying you have to do the bike bus to and from school, that sets up a bigger barrier for people starting bike buses. And I really think it's a good way to help scaffold community connection. And, we can bring you to school, but like you gotta start talking to your neighbors and find ways to get home. And we have like parents, like one parent will bring back a group of kids. Some parents, take the bike back, all sorts of various ways. But I sort of say like, we can't read people's minds or make up problems unless they raise their hand and ask for help. And so if somebody does ask for help or like, hey, I live here, I can't get my kid home, you have a WhatsApp group of bike bus people that they can reach out to. In terms of the hills, kids are resilient and they build up their strength. I did a bike bus and they go up a hill and the kids that get up there first have a little water break and the leader plays some good tunes while the rest of the kids come, but it's really great motivation. So there's a bike bus in Nevada City, California that I'm going to see next month. And the leader was talking about how quickly the kids built up their endurance to make it up the hills.
Alisha, do you have something to add to that one?
Yes, we've done AM PM. That was what I initially wanted to do. But if I don't have enough, then we just do AM, and their parents they're totally fine with it. They just want a bike bus. I think she asked a question, have there been 2 routes going? And yes, if in the beginning, we were doing that a lot. I had plenty of people, plenty of volunteers. So we would have one group come in from the east and another coming in from the west, and it was the most exciting thing in the world because we would meet somewhere in the middle, and it would be so many people, and it would bring it on in. But yeah, if we have enough people and we can do it, then yes. But if we don't, we encourage the parents to bike and tarp or bike, put their bikes on the front of the city bus and meet if they want. But yeah, if there's only AM, then they kind of figure out how they need to get their bikes home. We don't really we don't put too much into it, you know. Like, and it's funny because a lot of you guys just see the videos. You don't see like what, you know, doesn't happen or what's kind of like logistically kind of, you know, off or weird or whatever. But yeah, it all works. And the heels, we ain't scared of no heels. We ain't scared of nothing. If it's 20%, it's 20%. And we gotta dismount and walk it up. Well, that's what we doing. We gotta take breaks. I don't care how long it takes them. I don't care how long it takes them to get home. Same with going to school. If we have to dismount and walk up something, that's just what we do. And they don't seem to mind it at all.
That actually raises an interesting question that I haven't seen from the audience, but I'm personally curious about, like, getting to school on time. Is that ever a problem? How do you like kind of negotiate with the school in that way?
Our
You You go.
Oh, we have administrators in there, and so and I always have to somebody check on the time too. Hey, let me know what's going on. So if I need to speed it up a little bit and kind of stop worrying about certain things, fun, and then you know just worried about the speed, and that's what we got to do. But I don't. To this point, we have not been late. We may have been 3-4 minutes away from the bell, but we really try to do our best by not upsetting anyone.
Yeah, you just do route planning before and make sure the timing works.
And I'm just going to add to that, that, you know, you set a little bit of a buffer at each one of the stops, right? So you meet up at the location, you know, folks are going to greet each other and all that. And then you just set up a little bit of and they know, you know, the bike bus is leaving at this time. And we really want to make sure that you're there. I wanted to respond to the question beforehand, but now I'm trying to remember can you read it again? I'm sorry, Marley.
Yeah. It's the one that
particular
was
point.
multiple in one. It was talking about getting home from school.
Yeah. Okay, I remember what it is now.
Okay.
So one of the things that folks would ask, you know, because arrival and dismissal, you start talking to folks and they'd be like, I want to do this, but I don't know anybody. How do I find somebody to? And I would tell them, all these people that are coming with their children on bikes, those are the folks that you need to approach, right? The parents who are walking their children to school, that is who you need to talk to, right? Because it is not the school's responsibility to figure out a way for your kid to get to school. But you have a whole community there. Just you have that same interest. And then, you know, just meet up, go up to them and say, hey, I want to be able to do this. How can we meet and make sure this happens?
I think Vivian does bring up an interesting point, though, about like responsibility for how kids get to school, because most school districts and just society in general does take responsibility for kids who qualify for a bus. And so I always thought it was really messed up in Boston how if Vivian and I know each other from when we were in Boston. So I feel like she's like looking at me like proud mama bear. But you know, if we lived on the same block and Vivian lived on the 1 mile side of the block, and I lived on the 0.9 mile side of the block. Vivian with Boston Public Schools gets a bus. Her mom gets an app to track the bus, a phone number to call, roaming security, a bus driver, video cameras on the bus, like all of these resources. My family and anybody that lives within a mile, literally, you know, it's calling the police or 311, which is pretty much not much. And so I really do think it is like the greater society's like responsibility for making sure all kids get to school.
Another thing I want to bring up is the question of liability. It's like this thing is added only to that mode of transportation. I would ask, so what happens is your kid's getting on the school bus and while they're going up the steps, they trip. Who's liable for that? What happens when your kid is walking to school? Why is it that we continue to make the idea of biking like immediately dangerous and something is going to happen? So that's where we as community, I love Alisha's model of having community members leading this because we're the ones that know that kind of stuff, right? And we can encourage and show the parents that you need to speak up and say, riding a bicycle is a safe activity, all right? And it's, better for everything and move on. But what Sam is saying, the prioritization and just special attention that's given to school buses.
I mean, I still think about the student at my school in Roxbury, Lorenzo, and he'd show up every morning in a cab. And I knew he lived a half a mile from school. And I was like, Lorenzo, like, why don't you walk to school? He doesn't qualify for the bus. And he goes, my mom works the morning shift, and it's the only way I can safely get to school. So like this mom, has to pay for a cab every morning. He lives a half a mile away, but like that half a mile is H block. Like that's not a place that you'd want your fourth or fifth grader walking. And it's like, we should be doing something, and a walking school bus or a bike bus is like a very easy way to like have that checks and balances where as a community, we're looking out for each other. And I think it's like with that liability piece, there are children who don't qualify for the bus, who don't have parents who can drive or walk them, who don't have a neighbor who can drive or walk them. They are literally just out to the wolves. And I don't think like, oh, we can't do this because of liability. It's like these kids that are just left out are going to be safer by us doing a bike bus, picking them up or not. It just brings more awareness to people and children existing, in the world and on the streets.
To add to that as well, many students, well, I shouldn't say many, there is a whole community of students at many schools in Boston who get driven to school and they live around the corner. In my neighborhood, I've met kids like that. And I'm like, why are you getting driven? I get it. Maybe it's on your parents' way to work, but they'll say, because my mom says I'm going to get hit by a car. So we need to change that. We need to get them in a walking school bus. That's the way to start. And then if they're wanting to get a bike, then do that. And then as they get older, because this is the other thing that bike education for kids that are on bike buses is something that's really, really important to me. Because yes, we know their parents are the ones that are leading them, but the whole idea behind this is for these kids to then bike independently to school. So if we're not giving them, I was always offering to just give that bike bus their own education session, right? Because we needed to make sure that helmets and all of that was happening, because eventually they're going to say, Mom, Dad, we got it. And their parents need to feel comfortable that their child is going to be able to bike independently on their own.
Absolutely. Incredible back and forth. I mean, I am learning a lot. As someone who has never joined a bike bus and doesn't currently have children, I can't wait for the future when I'm involved in these. But speaking of kind of like safety, I know we only have a few minutes left, but there was a good question about kind of like when the group gets bigger, how do you handle, stop signs and traffic signals and intersections? Any tips for like, I guess, sharing traffic safety education, modeling good riding practices that kids can kind of pick up for when they want to ride independently?
Yeah, I'll go for this one. I think, no driver wakes up in the morning saying, this morning I want to hit a kid riding their bike to school. And yet that happens because our infrastructure doesn't set up a space that kids can do that safely. The bike bus is like the social infrastructure when we need the physical infrastructure. And so we create, and it's well studied, that people riding bikes in numbers create safety in numbers. So the more kids riding bikes, the safer it is for everybody. I definitely do not recommend biking in single file lines. I think that, spreads you out incredibly long. And I think the biggest safety risks are drivers getting impatient at the perpendicular streets and trying to shoot the gap. And the last thing I want is a driver who thinks they can squeeze by or try to pass you from behind. So if any of the videos, like we're on a neighborhood greenway, this is our preferred walking and biking route. You know, we take all the space and we force the driver to stop and pull over, or they can turn right or left and still make it to their destination, because the way kids learn is by making mistakes. And so you need to create an environment that's conducive for kids making mistakes. And I think the more confident you become, the more competent you are, and then the more likely you are to ride on non-bike bus days. So I personally focus much less on like safety of the children. You know, like I give my general like ride in a straight line, give everybody space, make predictable movements, but it's about creating an environment that helps them build those skills.
That's an excellent answer. And that's probably the last question that I can take on, given that we only have a few minutes left. Before I take us through our closing slides, I just want to give space for our speakers. Do you have any closing words, any tips to pass on? And no pressure. If not, I will be sending out a follow-up email, and so we can always include extra tips and insights and resources there too.
I'm going to jump on to this first. As my responsibility as a board member of the League of American Bicyclists, I want to direct you to the website. There are so many resources from when I first started to now. So there's like group rides, which is what a bike bus is. You know, there's a curriculum for that, for the student and for the person that's leading the ride. Lots of videos, lots of things that are very, very helpful for those of us who are biking, those of us that want to encourage others that are biking. So check that out. And then all of the campaigns that happen, you know, we're all about making sure that the roads are safer for everyone. So, you know, I got to give a plug to the League of American Bicyclists. So
I would say just do it. There's this mom in Florida who just wanted to start a bike bus. She put out a Facebook post 24 hours before the ride. 55 families signed up in 4 hours, and like 15 kids showed up the next morning. I mean, the demand for this is absolutely insane. You just start somewhere and you grow, and people absolutely love just being connected. So, and also feel free to reach out and check out bikebusworld.org.
All right. Well, I will take us through a few closing slides here. I know we're bumping up right to 4, so if you have to leave, I get it. I'll just be a few more minutes here. So the first promotional little slide I have for you here is to say, if you want to become a league cycling instructor like Vivian, if you want to be certified as a cycling educator and also have some liability insurance, we want to make it more possible for more people to do that. So we have a rolling LCI equity scholarship every year. And if you would like to apply for consideration, you can apply by September 30th. And you can also scan that QR code if you'd like to be directly taken to the site or to the application. Next up, we just want to say thank you to our the sponsors of our 2025 summit. They're the ones who are supporting our webinar series. And the good news is that if you want more content, you don't have to wait till the next summit. You can join our upcoming webinar series. Our next one will be How I Accidentally Started Bike Lane Uprising with Christina Whitehouse, which is going to be a great one. And if you do want to join us at the summit, that's going to be next March 24th through 26th. And we are accepting proposals for presentation. So if you'd like to, you know, produce a session like this, if you want to be on a panel about, you know, how you're making biking better in your community, we would love to hear your pitch for the session that you'd like to offer at the National Bike Summit. And then finally, I just want to say thank you all for joining. Thanks again so much to our speakers. Incredible, insightful information. And I know we didn't get to all the questions in the Q&A and in the chat, but hopefully we'll be able to, you know, provide some resources in the follow-up email that I will be sending out. And that's it. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day and get on a bike bus.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.